courtroom bench, Rhode Island TV Judge Frank Caprio rarely imposed punishment.
Matters dismissed.
But rather offered up compassion.
I'm sure you have the strength and the courage to rise above them.
Frank Caprio, the world's nicest judge, has passed away at 88 after battling pancreatic cancer. But doesn't it feel unsettling that one man's kindness in the justice system was so rare it made him famous? And now that he's gone, the real question lingers. Was Caprio an exception or a sign that something deeper is wrong with the way justice is delivered? On August 20th, 2025, at the age of 88, he passed away after battling pancreatic cancer, leaving behind a silence that feels heavier than any gavel strike. For years, his gentle rulings and heartfelt words turned a small courtroom in Providence into a place that felt different from the rest of the justice system. Through his show, Caught in Providence, clips of his cases spread across the internet, drawing billions of views. Caprio's story began far from the spotlight. Born on November 24, 1936 in Providence, Rhode Island, he grew up in the Federal Hill neighborhood. His father, Antonio Tup Caprio, was an Italian immigrant who peddled fruit and delivered milk, while his mother, Filomena, traced her roots back to Naples. The Caprio family didn't have much. Frank often recalled winters when their only source of warmth was the oven door left open. Even as a child, Frank worked to help his family survive. He polished shoes, delivered newspapers, and rode along with his father on the milk truck. These small jobs taught him more than just responsibility. They gave him a front row seat to the lives of working class people, knowledge he carried later into his courtroom. His father, though limited to a 5th grade education, urged his son never to forget where he came from and always to treat others with dignity. This advice became a quiet rule that guided every decision Frank made as a judge. School was never just about books for Caprio. It was about proving himself. At Central High School, where he graduated in 1953, he became a state wrestling champion, showing the determination that would follow him for life. Afterward, he attended Providence College, graduating in 1958 with a bachelor's degree. His time there deepened his values of service and faith, both of which remained constant throughout his career. But Caprio wasn't finished. He began teaching American government at Hope High School, passing on the lessons he had learned while also chasing another dream. By night, he traveled to Boston to attend Suffolk University School of Law. Balancing teaching with law school wasn't easy, but in 1965, he graduated with his law degree, a remarkable achievement for someone from such a modest background. That moment was the start of a legal career that would eventually redefine what justice could look like. There's one more piece of his story that often gets overlooked. Beyond the robe and cameras, Caprio also served in public office, worked as a lawyer for decades, and sat on numerous community boards. Frank Caprio first stepped into the role of judge in 1985 when he was elected to the Providence Municipal Court. What began as a local position turned into a 38-year career, where he eventually became the chief judge, handling cases that ranged from parking tickets to minor crimes. Yet, unlike most who sat on the bench, Caprio refused to treat justice as cold and mechanical. He believed that laws had to be balanced with compassion, and every case was more than just paperwork. It was someone's life. That belief earned him the title, the world's nicest judge, a name that followed him everywhere and gave his courtroom a reputation very different from the rest. His way of judging was strikingly simple. See the person, not just the violation. He listened, really listened to the people before him. A struggling mother, a veteran, or even an elderly man trying to care for his family, all received the same respect. One story that never left people's minds was that of a 96-year-old Mr. Coella who was pulled over for speeding while taking his 63-year-old son to cancer treatment. Instead of a fine, Caprio gave him heartfelt praise, telling him, "You are a good man. You really are what America is all about." That moment spread online like wildfire, and millions saw what justice looked like when paired with humanity. Caprio's courtroom didn't stay local for long. In 1988, his brother Joseph began filming real cases and airing them on public access TV under the title Caught in Providence. Unlike other courtroom shows that thrived on arguments and theatrics, this one showed genuine stories and quiet acts of kindness. By By 2000, it was airing on WLNE-TV, Providence's ABC affiliate, and in 2017, clips suddenly exploded across social media. By 2018, the show had entered national syndication, running on nearly 200 stations across the country. The numbers tell their own story. A single YouTube video of Caprio waving a ticket for a bartender, earning $3.84 an hour, reached 43.6 million views. Other clips, like the ones where he asked children to help him decide their parents' cases, drew massive audiences because they showed something rare: a judge willing to laugh, forgive, and teach all at once. Soon, Caprio's reach went beyond television. On Instagram, he gained 3.3 million followers. On TikTok, 1.6 million. His YouTube channel reached 2.92 million subscribers, and across platforms, clips of his rulings piled up billions of views. But behind the viral numbers was a deeper message. Caprio used his platform to remind people that justice is often out of reach for the poor. He warned that nearly 90% of low-income Americans face civil cases like evictions or traffic fines without any legal help at all. In one striking case, he forgave $400 in fines for a grieving mother who had just lost her son, offering words of comfort instead of penalties. To him, fairness was not about punishment. It was about giving people a chance. And in a justice system often criticized for being cold and distant, Caprio's voice stood out as a concerning question for all of us. If one judge could bring compassion to the law, why can't others? Outside the courtroom, Frank Caprio's influence was just as strong. For a full decade, he served as chairman of the Rhode Island Board of Governors for Higher Education, guiding major decisions that shaped the University of Rhode Island College, and the Community College of Rhode Island. Education wasn't just policy for him, it was personal. To honor his father, he created the Antonio Tup Caprio Scholarship Fund at Suffolk University School of Law, helping Rhode Island students committed to bringing legal services into neighborhoods that often go overlooked. He also funded scholarships at Providence College and Central High School, ensuring that young people from modest backgrounds had opportunities that he once had to fight for. But Caprio's life was not only about public service, it was anchored in family. For nearly 60 years, he shared his life with his wife, Joyce E. Caprio. Together, they raised 5 children: Frank T. Caprio, who became Rhode Island's state treasurer; David A. Caprio, who served as a state representative; Marissa Caprio-Pesci; John Caprio, and Paul Caprio. Their family grew even larger, with 7 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. Through every achievement and every setback, Caprio often spoke of his family's love as his greatest strength. His Catholic faith was equally central to who he was. He regularly spoke of prayer as a source of comfort, especially during the hardest moments of his life. Those hard moments came into sharp focus in December 2023, just after he turned 87. Doctors delivered news that shook him: pancreatic cancer. Known as one of the most dangerous cancers, it carries a survival rate of just 5 to 15% over 5 years in the United States, with an overall survival rate around 6%. Most patients don't know they have it until it's far advanced, since symptoms like jaundice, unexplained weight loss, and abdominal or back pain often appear late. Only about 20% of patients are candidates for surgery, the only chance for a cure. For Caprio, the treatment plan was punishing: 6 months of chemotherapy and 5 rounds of radiation. Still, he chose to face it publicly. In a heartfelt video, he called pancreatic cancer an insidious disease and asked his supporters to keep him in their prayers, while expressing gratitude to his doctors at Baptist Health South Florida and the Miami Cancer Institute. What followed was a fight that drew millions of people closer to him. He continued sharing updates with honesty, letting people see both his optimism and his struggles. In May 2024, after completing radiation, he rang the bell of healing, a tradition marking the end of treatment, surrounded by doctors, nurses, and his family. It was a rare glimpse of joy in a difficult year. But pancreatic cancer rarely loosens its grip for long. By August 2025, just days before his passing, Caprio appeared one last time in a video from his hospital bed. His voice was softer, but his message was steady. "I ask you again, if it's not too much, to remember me in your prayers." Those words, filled with both hope and concern, were his final gift to the people who had followed him for decades, an echo of humility and faith that will not fade. When Frank Caprio revealed that he was fighting pancreatic cancer, the reaction was far larger than anyone expected. Messages poured in, not just from Rhode Island, but from every part of the world, even as far as Iraq. People sent prayers, videos, and letters, wanting him to know he was not alone. Religious leaders came personally to bless him, and groups dedicated to fighting pancreatic cancer stepped forward to show support. Project Purple, an organization that helps patients feel less isolated, sent him what they called a blanket of hope, meant to bring comfort on the days treatment left him weak. His family, however, remained his strongest source of strength. His children and grandchildren stayed close, taking him to appointments and caring for him daily. At one point, one of his sons even opened his home so Caprio could continue treatment while being surrounded by family warmth. By speaking openly about his illness, Caprio pulled attention toward a disease that too often goes unnoticed until it is too late. Pancreatic cancer affects about 60,000 Americans every year, yet many don't learn they have it until the cancer has already spread. Caprio used his public voice to encourage early screening and stronger research efforts, giving his own fight a larger purpose. Many supporters launched fundraising efforts in his name, donating money to organizations working to discover better treatments and, one day, a cure. His honesty turned something frightening into a message of courage, giving other patients and their families a reason to feel seen. On August 20th, 2025, Caprio's fight finally came to an end. He was 88 years old. The news struck Rhode Island first, but quickly spread out around the world, shaking everyone who had followed his story. Flags in Rhode Island and across U.S. state agencies were lowered to half-staff, marking the loss of a man many considered a treasure. City leaders in Providence immediately began planning ways to honor him, with proposals to name a street or square after him. Across Rhode Island, schools, churches, and community groups gathered to hold vigils, remembering not only a judge, but a figure who had changed the way people thought about justice. Through his show, Caught in Providence, he became known to millions of people around the world. The program received 4 Daytime Emmy nominations, 3 for Outstanding Legal or Courtroom Program in 2021, 2022, and 2023, and 1 for him personally in 2024 as Daytime Personality Daily. The recognition reflected how unusual his courtroom style was. He mixed fairness with warmth, something viewers rarely saw in legal shows. After his passing, the production company behind the series remembered his compassion and common sense, and said he would be deeply missed. The online world erupted with tributes. On X, people described him as a symbol of kindness, empathy, and humanity. Others said he was one of the few people who seemed born to be a judge. For many, his death felt deeply personal, even if they had never met him in person. They remembered not just the rulings he gave, but the way he made people feel. Valued, understood, and treated with respect. Frank Caprio's influence did not end with his rulings. It continued in the way he inspired people to be kinder, gentler, and more understanding. After his passing, his family urged everyone to spread a little kindness today. That request took on a life of its own, touching millions. People began sharing personal encounters with him. One story told of a struggling driver whose fine was reduced after explaining financial hardship. Another described how Caprio's words gave someone hope during one of their lowest points. These stories, simple yet powerful, revealed how deeply his sense of fairness and empathy touched people's lives. He often gave second chances, and for many, those chances changed everything. His influence stretched into classrooms and campuses as well. Scholarships he created at Suffolk University, Providence College, and Central High School continue to support young people pursuing higher education and careers in public service. By making education more accessible, Caprio invested in the next generation, ensuring his values would live on through their work. On February 4, 2025, his book Compassion in the Court, Life-Changing Stories from America's Nicest Judge, was published. It quickly became a bestseller, filled with courtroom stories that demonstrated how kindness and fairness could exist alongside authority. Readers around the world connected with it, seeing his philosophy written in his own words. When the world learned of his death, the response was immediate and wide-reaching. News outlets such as CNN and the BBC reported on his passing, noting how he had touched millions far beyond Rhode Island. Fans across continents filled social platforms with messages of grief and gratitude. One post said, "Heaven gained an angel today." Another called him a good-hearted soul who never seemed intimidating. even while wearing the robe of authority. Do share your hearty words for our legendary Frank Caprio in the comment section below, and for more such videos, please subscribe to our channel.